Hello and welcome back to another episode of French Ear Trumpet. I'm Andy from AJ in France, and we have Colin from French Countryside Life. And we try to once a week get together and just talk about anything that interests us, or anything we just see in the news or that is we think might be interesting for those people who are watching this channel. Could be some people living in France, thinking of living in France, or just something completely different, which is probably what we're going to do today. Now, firstly, we didn't have an episode last week because Colin went back to the motherland and
I did go back to the UK, yeah. I'm glad I didn't get stopped by customs on the way back, because I would have had to explain why I've got 4 packs of Paxo stuffing, 6 packs of Idaho mashed potato, and various other
essentials.
Yeah. Accoutrement.
That's it. I don't think you'll be the first, to be honest, and certainly not going to be the last. So anyway, what we're going to do this week then?
Well, books.
Let's
talk about books, and it's a massive, varied and wide subject. As you know, or you may not know, I was a chauffeur for years and years and years. I think I probably spent 75% of me working life waiting outside somewhere, waiting for people. So I read an awful lot, up to the point when Audible became quite easy to use, and I used to listen to books after that, because obviously
you mean in the car?
In the car, yeah, because it gets a bit problematic trying to read a book when you're driving. So I've tried it. It's not good. I haven't really. I did. Yeah, books, mate.
Yeah.
Don't they call it the theatre of the mind?
Right. First things first. We did an episode on movies, didn't we? And really enjoyed that. And we're going to do another one because we missed so much stuff. One of the things I always said, and throughout doing that, is the movies that are based on a book. For me, the book was always better. I don't know if you feel the same.
Well, certainly. I remember reading Silence of the Lambs, and I forget the author now. I just had it in my head just then. Anyway, Robert Harris, and the book goes into so much more detail.
Yep.
About the way that Hannibal Lecter thinks. Hannibal Lecter had this peculiar mind in that he was able to recall pretty much everything that he read or saw in the book. Hannibal Lecter had this way of doing that, in that in his mind he had this great big mansion house, and in his mind he'd walking through the door and there'd be doors all around with the various subjects of the things that he was going to experience. And just say, for example, it was some document, he would go through the door marked documents, and there'd be a corridor with other doors, and all those doors would be marked with the various subjects. So say it was his gas bill, for example, Hannibal Lecter's gas bill. He would walk to the door marked gas, open the door, go into the office, into this little office, and there'd be a filing cabinet. And in his mind, he'd be able to open the filing cabinet, find this document, and look at it.
Right.
So that was the way that he was able to recall everything.
So we missed that from the film, really.
We missed so much stuff in the film, yeah. In the following book, I want to say it's Red Dragon, but I'm not sure whether that's the prequel.
It's the prequel, I'm sure.
It is the prequel, yeah. I can't remember the name of the book that was the sequel to it. it's where Hannibal Lecter's escaped, and he tracks Clarice down, and she's back at the FBI training facility, and she's driving an old Mustang, and he finds the car. He's able to open the lock, and he smells the steering wheel.
Well, yeah, he's not. He had this guy anyway, is he? So
no, exactly. So, but that's something that was completely missing from the films, and also actually there was another thing that was completely missing, which was a brilliant sort of addition to filling out a character. So, you know, in the movie, there's the African American guy who's a nurse, who directs Clarice down to the where Hannibal Lecter's kept.
Yeah.
In the books, that nurse has a much bigger part. So in the books, he has got a fascination with the old Dutch masters, Vermeer, the painter. Not the painter and decorator. I mean the old master painter, and he's got a mission in his life to see every Vermeer all over the world. Well, after Hannibal Lecter escapes, Hannibal Lecter sends this nurse tickets for a round the world trip to go and see every Vermeer that's ever been painted.
Doesn't sound like a trap much.
It's because this nurse treated him so well, treated him like a human rather than, you know.
So he didn't meet him halfway around and eat his brains then or anything?
No, not as far as I know. But yeah, but there's so much more detail in books. That's what I'm.
No, I agree, and that was the origin of my point. There is, I always find, and that's leading on to just basically saying, my love of books probably came before my love of film, because as you know, we both of us love watching films, and before that it was books, and during, well, at the same time it's books as well. But I find that I don't know if you ever watched a film where, let's say, for example, there's a scary monster in the film, or there's something evil in the film. As soon as it's revealed, you think, oh, that's all right. In my mind, it was worse. And you just don't, and the film just takes a bit of a nosedive, because whatever they've put on the screen to project that evil image, or the whatever it is, you're thinking, well, you know, in my mind, it would have been a lot worse than that. And I think with books, you keep that, and you have that all the way through the book. So it's down to you to make like the theatre of the mind, like you say.
Yeah, brilliant.
That's why I don't really watch horror films, because there's the bit in the horror film where you watch it and you're like, oh, what's happening here? Something's not quite right. Everything starts off all right, then it's not quite right, and then things start to happen and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be good. And then as soon as it's revealed what it is, you're like, oh, so it's just that then, is it? Right. Okay.
So, the only exception to the rule that you're talking about there that I can think of is the clown in It. Was it Pennywise?
Yes. I know what you mean by that, yeah.
That was terrifying. That was really hey, you Georgie. Oh, my God.
Exceptions to the rule, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a book here that. Can I start with one?
Absolutely.
That's all right with you? I've got a pile of them here, but don't worry, we're not have to go through all of them. But just one I thought, with the name of this channel, would be very useful to anybody who comes to France who does DIY. Hold on. It's right at the bottom. Obviously, it's right at the bottom. Obviously. So this book, I know we don't normally do visual aids. I'm just showing you a picture of the book. I'll read the title in a second. But it's construction of houses, individual houses. starting from scratch. So first fix and second fix. And it covers all, let me just find a random pages, all the regulations and methods and the stuff you need to know about building a house, how deep the foundations need to be, the electrics, the plumbing, the fosses, the roofing, the structure, planning, everything you could possibly imagine. And it's not cheap, but it's indispensable if you're going to do your own work and you want to do it to the French norms or regulations.
Cool, yeah. Cool.
So the name of the book is Construction de Maison Individuelle, and it's by a chap called Henry Renaud, Renaud.
Can you get that on Amazon, do you think?
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's just a quick, before we get into the other books that we like, just thought I'd say that because people who watch this, some live in France and want to do their own work. It's all explained by diagrams, and it's easy to translate if you need to. So it's well worth having a copy of just to refer to, especially with electrics and plumbing, so you know you can do it right. Anyway.
That's brilliant. Hold on a second. I've got a book on the, because I've got my my bookshelves here. It's just made me think of a book. Talk amongst yourselves.
I actually used this book while he's looking for that to create an extension on my mom's house for my dad. I used these pages to find out what depth the foundations needed to be, how you construct the floors and the walls, because they're not the same as the UK. So it's well worth getting, just so you can refer to it and make sure you do it the correct way.
So would you be able to adapt that to build a garage, for example, or like
it's included. Everything's in there, from a complete house, including garage or anything like that. It's all included. Different methods of floor construction, block and beam, timber, all that. So everything is in there, and how to do it to the right specifications. So I'll try and do it. I'll put a name in the description, but try and do a link. But I'm not sure if that'll work or not.
We might be able to do an Amazon.fr link. Yeah.
Something will be in the description for all these books, I think.
Talking of French, for those that are serious about learning French, this is a book that is indispensable because, well, let me show it to you first. So there we go. Bechel's Complete Guide to Conjugating 12,000 French Verbs.
All at once?
All at once, all at the same time. It's got every verb in it. Just so, for example, you go every verb, every conjugation, every tense, every passé, présent. Brilliant.
And I can tell you from having a French job, that is indispensable, because sometimes the conjugations of the verbs are nothing like the original.
Yeah.
So they might be saying something to you and you've got no idea what it is, but if they'd have just said it normally, not conjugated it, you'd know exactly what they meant.
But I've used that quite a lot, because what I tend to do is to help me learn French. We've got Tintin books.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, Tintin in French.
Nice. That sounds quite good. I've actually got another, while we're talking about this, for people who are learning French, because we're doing it all at the same time. I've got, what's that? Tintin, yeah.
Yeah, Tintin.
I have another tip for you if you want to read French books. So, for example, I have this one here. It doesn't matter which one, but this one is just a novel by Icelandic, actually.
Okay.
author. But what I found is I find reading easier than speaking because you don't have to react. You can take your time and then it doesn't matter if you miss a little bit, you can pick it up later on. But I found that reading a book, a French book written by a French person for a French audience is full of terms you've no idea what they are. So you find it really difficult to read a French book by a French person for French people. So what I do is when I'm at the airport or wherever, I buy a book like this one that's written by a foreigner or English, American. I've got
then
loads
it's translated to French.
And it's translated into French. So all the slang, all the phrases, the way that you compose the sentences is actually done in a way that you can recognize it, and it's like 50% easier to read the book even if it's in French.
That's really interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah, I never even thought about it until there was a book I really wanted to read, and it was in French, and they only had it in French. I was like, oh, just buy it in French. So I bought it in French and said I'll take my time, but I was reading it like I was reading like in not the English, but
I know what you mean.
Easy. It was easier.
Yeah.
So that's a good tip as well. So we've
Good
got
job.
a few good tips there actually for French speaking ones. Anyway, moving on from French speaking, what else have you got for me?
So it's a bit obscure, but there's a fella called George East.
Go on.
George East.
Has he got a brother?
What, George West?
No, Fred. Yeah, go on, carry on.
Apparently he's really good at patios. I don't know.
Right,
yeah, George East. He wrote a book. Don't worry, we can edit that bit out.
or not.
Or not. Yeah, George East wrote a book called Mill of the Flea. Mill of the Flea. So it's one of those. I mean, there's thousands of them of books written by expats that have come to France, bought an old property, and written a book about it, and the renovation process and so on. But the way he writes is so good. I really enjoyed reading. I think it's a series of about 3 or 4 books, and there's a fella in the village called Monsieur Renard, Mr. Fox, and always drunk, always up to various nefarious activities in the village. Like they had a market that was was shown on TV. So a load of foreigners turned up, like us lot. A load of English people turned up, and Monsieur Renard started charging the people for parking. It's free parking.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, just stuff like that. It's really good. George East, anyways, it's worth a look.
Yeah, I like that one.
I think he's self-published on Amazon, so. But yes, really obscure, but it's worth a look.
So how did you find that one then? Because that is pretty obscure.
Yeah, I think I was just looking for books on Amazon about France. This is years ago.
Oh, when you were back at work?
Yeah. Just
that far away, yeah.
Yeah, just looking for books on France, and that one popped up. I thought, well, that looks interesting. So I bought it, and there's a paperback, and I think it was probably his 6th book that he sold.
Well, anyway, if we can put some business his way, that sounds really good.
Yeah,
In fact, I'm going to look at that because that sounds.
Yeah, he's had a really interesting life as well. Really interesting life. He's been all over the world and just lives a life. And anybody like that, I'll listen to.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, there's a book that you recommended to me. I think we have to mention it, don't we? The nuclear war one.
Andy Jacobson.
So did you get the audiobook of this one then? Did you?
I did, yeah, and it was read, by Andy Jacobson, who happened to be on there's a podcast that I think his name's Sean Taylor. I'll have to have a look at that in a minute. But no, Sean something, who does a podcast. He's a ex-Navy SEAL and CIA operator, and he's got this really successful podcast on YouTube and interviews all sorts of people. And she was on it talking about this book, and I think I came across it on Audible because I'm fascinated by the whole end of the world apocalypse and that sort of stuff. How it's going to come about or how it possibly will come about. And that one popped up as being like brand new.
Yeah, well, it is brand new. In fact, when was this? Because after you recommended it, I picked it up at the airport and it had literally just come out. 2024, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, so I listened to it on Audible, as I say, being read by the author. Normally, what I tend to do is I'll listen to an Audible book when I'm driving, and also maybe 15 minutes. I'll set a timer 15 minutes when I go to bed. So
right.
But this one, within the first 15 minutes, it was every opportunity. As soon as I wasn't doing something.
Yeah.
I'd have the headphones in. I listened to it. I could not put it down, and it's absolutely terrifying.
It is, but it's very good and it's quite well written. I mean, I bought it at the airport. Where was it going? Krakow or no, Czech Republic, I think. And right. I did it in the whole. So the flight there and the flight back, I did the whole book.
I believe it,
yeah, because it's quite gripping because you want to know what happens next. So a little summary, really, for those listening is, it's a fictional depiction of what could happen or how a nuclear exchange could come about between, shall we say, the West and other interested parties such as Russia and North Korea and that sort of stuff. But it's done through the lens of really good research. So what could be or what could be possible? How it could unfold.
So she's had access to people that are on active duty, and also people that have retired from those jobs that are directly involved in any nuclear exchange.
Yeah.
So the crux of it is that any nuclear weapons that are fired from west to east go over the pole. And those nuclear weapons can only be identified after they've come over, by which time, but they know that they've been fired because they've got satellites.
Right.
Yeah, they know that they've been fired because they've got satellites to watch those fires. So they've got a real short time between when it's fired to when it comes over the pole and it can be identified and its trajectory identified. So they've got to decide whether to launch a counter-strike before they see it. And the thing that she that she repeated was that the myth that once fired, a nuclear weapon can be, they just press a button and it blows up in the air and it's, it falls into the ocean. Once a nuclear weapon's fired, or launched, I should say, that's it. You cannot turn it off.
For obvious reasons.
You can't ditch it in the ocean. You can't. Once it's launched, that's it. It's autonomous and it will land where you send it.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away about the book because those people want to read it, probably they're going to love it. Those people who are not interested in this, we'll get to another book in a minute.
Yeah.
But the only the only thing about the book was to make the book work, she has to remove the safeguards that are in place. And she does that by stating either they don't work, or it's too much of a coincidence. But in real life, if it happened and the safeguards were in place, then it wouldn't happen. But there'll be no book after that. So she's had to include some made-up scenarios about what might happen to enable this to happen, because there are safeguards. That's the only thing I'd say about it. But then she couldn't write the book if she didn't, so it's not really worth worrying about. But it's very interesting. I'd probably read it again, to be honest. So
yeah,
it's very good.
I've only just recently listened to 1984. It was an audible dramatization, if you like, of 1984 by George Orwell, and it was the first time that I'd heard it or read it or anything, and I was completely gobsmacked that it could have been written yesterday.
Do you know, it's one of those things. It's one of those books and films where I'll actually say the film is very good. So the film actually has John Hurt. And
I've not seen it, to be honest, as I say.
Richard Burton.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's the voice, yeah.
And it's a really good film. But John Hurt's an excellent actor, but it is very similar to the book, for sure. And you get that kind of, and the way it was done in the time that it was done as well. I think it was done in the 80s. I think it was done really like gritty. So it's quite a good translation of the book. But yeah, the book, you can apply it to nearly every period in history, and I think maybe that was when he was writing that book. Maybe he'd established that you could apply it to nearly every time in history, because you could have applied it to the 30s with the rise of the Nazi Party. You could apply it to nowadays, I guess. But you could apply it to quite a lot in the past. When a new regime comes to power, it tries to eliminate the past. And that would have been the same with the Romans. It would have been the same with the Egyptians. I mean, you could apply that to any really.
Certainly the filtering of news and the manipulation of news is very current, isn't it?
It depends what you mean. I mean, nowadays you get opportunities like we've got here. We can expose our stories to the world, which you could never have done back in the past.
That's very true, yeah. That's very true.
So you have that aspect of it, but people still read the newspapers, people still watch the news. So it's not even so much as that, but things are just completely missed out. I mean, we concentrate on certain aspects, such as the conflict at the moment in the Middle East. Ukraine has been pushed to the sides, and virtually nobody hears anything going on in Africa or Haiti at the moment. It's a war zone in Haiti.
Yeah.
So I see what you mean by that. It just doesn't get fed down the normal channels. But I bet if you went looking for it, you could find the info. I think that's probably more. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
What gets given to you is controlled, and I think it's probably always has been. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great story, and it stood the test of time. That's for sure.
Yes, indeed. Right, next book.
Go. Right. Well, I've got a lot here, but I was captivated by a
captivate. Good word.
Yeah, by a guy you'll know, and I didn't know what to make of him. And it was a guy who left America and exposed the CIA and the NSA, what they were doing and spying on normal people and all that sort of stuff, and went into exile. And halfway get into exile, the USA cancelled his passport, so he got stuck in Russia. And that is Edward Snowden. And the name of his autobiography is permanent record.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's written by somebody who is down to earth and is just annoyed about the way that the normal people were being treated by the authorities. And people considered him to be a traitor because he ended up in Russia, but he never wanted to go there. And he was on his way to a non-extradition country. Like I say, he can't get a plane anywhere out of there now because America will just snatch him from wherever he goes. The only safe place for him at the moment currently is where he is.
Yeah.
But he's quite interesting on that point when he had exposed everything. And there is a film again, which was not bad, but it's not as good as the book.
Yeah.
And when he arrived in Russia, he was met by the KGB and they said, right, what you got for us? And he went, no, it's not that.
Mm.
I haven't got any information that will be of any interest to you whatsoever. It is purely the scale and what's going on with the NSA on spying on their own people.
Mm.
And he gives you a scenario of what he was doing when he went to work for the NSA. He said, I don't know what I was doing because he said I was going into the basement and I had a computer. And my task was to monitor this person. So basically, they turned on the camera of this guy's laptop, and he's in his office at home in Iran somewhere, and he's watching him through his camera. And this guy's son comes in, sits on his knee, and he's just literally just a family man. And the only reason he's monitoring this guy is because he's applied to go to a university. And that's it. That's the only reason they're looking at this guy. And Edward Snowden's thinking, is this what I really want? Is this the kind of thing I want to support? Is this how I really want to be? And anyway, I can't give away too much more of the book because there's some super interesting things. He can confirm or deny whether they landed on the moon, the existence of aliens at Area 51, and all that kind of stuff.
Brilliant.
It's a very interesting book.
Right.
And the lack of security that the NSA and the CIA had was incredible. And specifically, he was head of technical section in Geneva, which is where the UN was. And one of the spies came to him and said, look, can you make me a USB drive that I just stick in a computer at the UN and it just takes all the information from the UN? And he goes, well, yeah, of course I can. So I'll make us one then. So he did. And this guy goes to the UN and he just downloads everything from the UN onto it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And I'd like to say thank you to Edward Snowden as well for making me an awful lot of money. I followed him on Twitter, and when the Bitcoin crashed, I think I told you about this.
Yeah. Go on.
When Bitcoin crashed because of the exchange, the guy who set up the Bitcoin exchange but didn't do it properly, and there's all the corruption in it. I followed him on Twitter and he said, look, I've looked at it and there's no reason why Bitcoin should fail for this. It's just one exchange and it would hit rock bottom. So I thought, do you know what? If he says it's good, I'll do a bit of research, looked into it, and guess what? It was. And I think I probably got 400% return on the money that I put in.
Nice.
After a year. So, yeah, very intelligent guy, really knows his stuff. And if you follow him on Twitter, you'll see why. But definitely read the book. It's brilliant.
Brilliant.
What have you got then?
So to lighten the mood a little bit,
yeah.
There's a journalist called Emma Kennedy.
Yes.
Who's written two brilliant books. Just two. I mean, she's written lots of books, but the two brilliant books. The first one is The Tent, the Bucket and Me.
Okay.
Which is the funniest book. I remember taking it on holiday when we went to Greece. Family went to Greece on holiday, and I remember sitting on the beach laughing out loud at this book, and people looking at me because I was like a maniac sitting on the beach laughing my head off. So The Tent, the Bucket and Me follows. It's a true story of when she was a child, and her parents were it would have been 60s. Were well-educated university lecturers that saved all year to take the kids in their Land Rover 110 to campsites in France.
Right.
So, which was at the time, which was exotic stuff.
Yes,
And,
very middle class.
and oh, just so funny. And there's so many little references that you go, oh, I remember that. So she talks about like cheesecloth shirts and stuff like that. And there's a bit in there that I remember they'd saved all year for this holiday, and their mum had put away tins of spam right through the year. So they had a big cardboard box full of tins of spam, and they've gone to this campsite in France somewhere, and so they've gone to one of the gastronomic centres of the world, and they're sitting eating fried spam and stewed spam and spam everything, and they at this particular campsite this time there was a chicken rotisserie van that used to visit and sell the chickens, and they thought, oh yeah, we'll have some of that. So they queued up, got right to the back of the queue, queued up, got to the front, and the French was fairly limited, and they said, we'd like a chicken, and the fella said to him, what's your name? And they said their name, and he just went, no.
Oh.
So what? So they thought that was the most racist chicken rotisserie man in the world, but it turned out that we had to book it the week before.
Oh no!
Obviously, I didn't know, but anyway, just such a funny book.
I'm going to give that a run, actually.
Honestly, I can't recommend it enough. The Tent in the Bucket and Me. She also wrote a book called Shoes for Anthony, which is a fictional book about a young man, or a young fella. He's about 9, I suppose. I think it's up in the north somewhere, maybe Lancashire, during the war. During the war. And the new shoes for Anthony that he's been running about barefoot for a bit, and his mum buys him a set of wellies that are slightly too big for him, but he'll grow into them, don't worry. And anyway, this German fighter gets shot down up in the moors, and Anthony and his friends. I won't say anymore because you're bound to read it. After reading The Tent in the Bucket, you've got to read Shoes for Anthony. So I won't say anymore. But it's a brilliant story. So right. Yeah. So Emma Kennedy.
So if you're gonna read, see, I don't read many fictional books. I don't really get along with them very well.
Yeah.
I tend to read more non-fiction or that kind of stuff, or biographies. I like to read biographies a lot.
I've got a brilliant one for you, but go on.
Yeah, but if I was gonna read an action or adventure book, my main go-to guy is Clive Cussler. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Clive Cussler. Yeah, I can recommend an author called Stephen Leather, if you like action books. Just brilliant. Oh my God, so good. Stephen Leather. He's lived in London, knows all about London, and all around the world. Actually, I think he was a journalist for the Daily Telegraph, so he's been all over the world. And one of his characters is a fellow called Spider Shepherd.
Right.
Who's a ex-SAS. They all are, aren't they?
Oh, obviously.
And yeah, he just follows his story around after he leaves, and he's trying to make amends for all the terrible things he's done.
Interesting.
Yeah, really good, really good. Yeah, Stephen Leather, brilliant. Brilliant. What you said about biographies. One of the best biographies I've read is Windswept and Interesting by Billy Connolly.
See, I find him quite fascinating, Billy Connolly. Yeah.
You'll love his book then. It's one of those things. It's got something for everyone. So it's got laughter and tears, pathos. Brilliant.
Oh, he was in a Columbo episode, you know.
You know what? I never knew that.
Yeah.
My wife thinks they're terrific.
Music with too many notes or something along those lines.
Right.
He plays a conductor. Yeah. And he was really good actually.
Yeah. Yeah, so Windswept and Interesting by Billy Connolly.
See, I didn't really reckon much to him, to be honest. And then, because my dad had Parkinson's and he's got it. And
yes, of course.
Around that sort of time, he's kept popping up on my feeds and stuff, because obviously I was looking at Parkinson's stuff, and he was coming up all the time, and he just seems like a really nice guy as well.
Yeah.
So, but super interesting, like you say. So I'm going to give that a run for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
also, there's a book called Living with a Seal.
Living
with a Seal.
Not the singer.
No,
not an actual seal.
Not a.
Oh, right, okay.
No, this is a US Navy SEAL.
Oh, right, okay.
Living with a Seal by a fellow called Jesse Itzler. Jesse Itzler is an entrepreneur in America. He's made millions of dollars through various schemes and programs and stuff. And he thought that because he was working so much, his fitness was just going off the off the boil. So he thought, wouldn't it be interesting if I got a Navy SEAL to come and live with me for 6 months?
Wow. So he sets this up.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be well? So that was his first mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
His second mistake was choosing a fellow called David Goggins.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever come across David Goggins. He's a maniac. I
think most of them are, to be honest.
Yeah, no, but this he's a proper double maniac. He did an ultra marathon with stress fractures to both his legs.
Right.
And I think
the pub that day then, did he?
Say again?
He didn't fancy the pub that day then.
Yeah. So anyway, I remember that this Jesse Itzler sends this David Goggins an email, said, fancy come and live with me for 6 months. And so he says, yeah, okay. So he goes along. And the first thing, because obviously Jesse Itzler's doing all right, he's got a big house, I think I want to say Colorado, but it could be California. But he says, look, like as soon as he walks in, this David Goggins, he says, right, we've got to change all these windows because all these windows need to be made bulletproof. and so like this, Jesse says, well, okay then, all right, I'll find out. And he says to his wife, yeah, so the SEAL says that we need to change all the windows, but it's going to cost $200,000. She's like, what are you talking about? It's a really good book anyway. It's a really good book.
Yeah.
So he says to him, right, we're going to start off with you doing 1,000 pull-ups. He says, what? 1,000? He says, I don't care if it takes you 24 hours. You're going to do 1,000 pull-ups in a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. It's a brilliant book. Really good. So the moral of it is it shows if you set your mind to something, you can do it.
Yeah. Right, what have I got? Let's have a look. So, what should I go with? There's a couple of books, right? 3 books. My 3 go-to books that made the biggest difference in my life. Was that there's more than that. There's more than that. But I suppose the three biggest ones. I don't know if you've read this. It's everyone knows it. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Have you actually read it?
I've not read it. No, I've read a similar book. I think it was a Jordan Peterson book that I wrote. That I read.
Oh yeah, I've read his books as well. Right. So the strange thing is another book. Where is it? This one, The Richest Man in Babylon, by George S. Glasson, and that was originally printed in, I'm going to say, early 1900s.
Oh, really?
1926.
Blimey.
And it's a book about Babylon.
Yeah.
And it's so I used to live, I had a job and I used to live paycheck to paycheck, I guess, for a long time. Decided that probably wasn't for me. I wanted to do something about it. So I read that book on a recommendation from somebody. So it's a book written in 1926 about somebody in Babylon in the ancient times. And it just completely changed the way I thought about money, completely. And it's only a small book. It's tiny. And it's about a guy who builds chariots in Babylon. And I can't give too much of it away, but after reading that, I thought, right, I need to sort myself out with money because there's plenty of it out there. So I need to go and get some. And the next thing I did was,
Hold on a sec. Yeah, but
you still feel me?
Yeah.
Oh,
What's up?
Huh?
What's up?
I was going to put my shoes on and go and put the chickens.
I'll sort it out. Don't worry about the chickens. They're all right. That's all right. That's all right. The door will come down. They'll be all right. I'll go shut the door in a bit. James worried about the chickens.
Nice. Well, somebody has to.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, go on.
So I read that, and then I thought, what about trading shares? People seem to do that. So I had a go at it, and I just lost a load of money. And then I thought, I better get some help. So I read this book, The Naked Trader, by a guy called Robbie Burns.
Right.
And then I thought, I could do this. I can do this. But I need more help. So I actually paid money and went on one of his courses down at Heathrow.
Okay.
It was, back then, it was quite a lot of money. And it's the best money I've ever spent. And you can still go on his courses. He's still around. He's still writing books. And I'll give you, we went to there's only about 20 of us in the room, quite a big room and that. Such a nice guy as well. He said, look, this isn't a motivational thing. We'll just show you what I do. And he had a projector and a computer, and that's it. And he brought up his own ISA account. And at that time, it had 2-point-something million in there that he'd made just by trading shares. And he says, this is live. We'll just trade some now, and I'll show you what I do. And honestly, that was a turning point. And I thought, well, yeah, okay, maybe we can all do this. So, but that all started with this first book.
Yeah.
Richest Man in
Do you
Babylon.
still trade shares, Andy?
I do, yeah. Yeah.
You do? Okay.
And and it's all from following his, well, not all. From then on, I read more books from different people, and then sort of you put your own sort of stuff together. But that was a big change, which allowed me to come out and live in France and then seemingly do nothing for about 4 years. And recently I've got a job for visa purposes. Anyway, so I would recommend any of the books by Robbie Burns, The Naked Trader, but certainly The Richest Man in Babylon. It's only going to cost you about €7 or €8 on Amazon. Just get it and read it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'll do that.
And it was really just completely changed everything for me financially. Anyway, that's yeah. So what?
Yeah.
Okay. What have you got for me?
So moving on. So what you were saying earlier about right at the beginning about the difference between movie and TV adaptations of
Yeah.
books. Having watched The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh yes, okay,
That,
okay. Yeah.
that was a really good series. Really, really
Margaret
good.
Atwood, is that right?
Margaret Atwood, that's right, yeah. I thought I'm gonna have to read the book and then read the sequel that she wrote just relatively recently. And it's the original book is very similar, but the sequel is completely different to the TV.
Okay.
Um,
In what way is it different then?
it's just it's more conclusive.
Would you think that they on purposely didn't make it that way for the TV
Absolutely.
so they could spin it on for
So they
another?
can carry on and carry on. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
the reason I'm saying that is because when I watched the first season, I thought it was good, but then the second season, I was like, nothing happens really.
Yeah,
So,
I just flogged it. Yeah, flogged it to death.
and I
But
stopped
yeah, there's a quote by Margaret Atwood that's always stuck in my mind for some reason. That it's not a family-friendly quote. That's why I've not used it on my my channel, French Countryside Life.
Oh, I think
French Countryside Life.
I know the one you mean now.
Yeah, yeah. Not sure this is the appropriate place for it, so I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we can do it on this one.
Yeah. So the quote is, in a relationship, men are frightened that women are going to laugh at them, and women are frightened that men are going to kill them.
Yeah. I know what she means by that, and yeah, it's interesting.
Park that one there. So, have you read any of Bill Bryson's books?
I've read one. Very funny.
They're brilliant, aren't they? They're so good. Did you
Yeah.
read the one where he's on the Appalachian Trail with his friend, which is
No,
also funny enough, which is also made into a movie with Nick Nolte.
right. What's the movie called?
I can't remember, but yeah. The book is about Bill Bryson decides to walk a part of the Appalachian Trail, and his friend, who's a real drinker and all the rest of it, lives life at 100 miles an hour, decides, yeah, I'll come along with you, and and there's lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, it's really good, really good.
Yeah, all right. I'll give that a run. Yeah, definitely. I like Bill Bryson. He's very funny and very very down to earth as well, isn't he? So
yeah, Bill Bryson's brilliant. Yeah. Right, so a book that I've read just recently, or listened to just recently, on a more serious note, is by Douglas Murray. You aware of Douglas Murray?
Go on. The name rings a bell, but
So Douglas Murray is a journalist who some would call him right-leaning, I suppose, maybe. But he's certainly got his head screwed on. He's certainly a realist. And the book's called The Strange Death of Europe. And and it's all about the almost organised movement of people into the West.
You mean orchestrated by Russia, China,
WEF and the UN and various.
WEF.
Yeah.
That's not really that's just a group of businesses.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, but
is that what he says? Right? Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but
UN. Okay, all right, go on, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, you can make your own mind up about it.
I mean, I haven't read it, so I don't know, but
but it's certainly worth a read. There's certainly forces at work somewhere, but the issue that I have with it is I like to think that I'm, what's the word, that I can see things from other people's point of view, or I try to anyway. So if I was from a South American country, or if I was from East Africa, for example, and I knew that if I was to get into Europe, I would have the potential for a much better life. I would certainly do it.
Mm.
I would certainly. I mean, we came to France for a better life ourselves, didn't we?
Well, we've done exactly the same thing, haven't we?
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. So I have no issues with that. But we've done it legally, and I think that's the issue that this book raises. That there are legal ways and there's illegal ways, and there are powers that operate that have taken advantage of that and taken advantage of people as well. Anyway, Strange Death of Europe, Douglas Murray. It's worth a read.
Okay, well, there you go. I think we could probably do an episode on migration, because we are migrants, aren't we? I guess.
We are.
Um,
As I say, we've migrated for a better life, and
exactly what other people are trying to do as well.
absolutely, yeah, 100%. But we'll park that there, and we'll come back to that.
Yeah, I think we probably will do in the future. Right, I want to there's a book that is going to appeal to nerds, I guess.
Brilliant.
A guy called Daniel Kahneman.
Okay.
Who's a Nobel-winning economist.
Okay.
And this is called Thinking Fast and Slow. And the whole book is based around the proposition, which you can evidence throughout the book. And I think that's what he won his Nobel Prize for, actually. You think at two different speeds. So you have, we would call it probably conscious and subconscious, but it's not really. So you have things that you do automatically all the time. And then as soon as you're not doing it automatically and you're having to think about doing it, that's when you're thinking slow, and it takes a lot more brain power, and you have to concentrate and really put your mind into doing something. So, and then on the other side, you've got stuff that you just do normally. Like if you're loading the dishwasher, you don't even think about it. So that's thinking fast. And then thinking slow would be sitting down and doing a crossword puzzle, something like that. And you think at two different speeds. And when you're thinking fast, your brain takes loads and loads of shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're thinking slow, it tries to form patterns. It tries to look at things more analytically and different. And you end up tired after it. So that's when you're doing something, or you're traveling or whatever, you're taking in new stuff. At the end of it, you feel really, really tired. But if it's just loading the dishwasher, it doesn't make a difference because your brain's not concentrating on it. But it's a really interesting book, and it's an international bestseller, and it was on top of the charts for many, many months. It's incredibly interesting, but it is one for the nerds about how people think, and it just changes your way of how you look at stuff.
Funny enough, I was talking to Robbie at Escape to France. You're on link in description. And he was saying about in a situation where you would normally react, that there's your lizard brain and your thinking brain, which is exactly what you're talking about. Exactly, so he said your lizard brain will just react without passing it through, any filters. So he said the ideal situation is that before you react, wait 10 seconds, and that gives your thinking brain time to catch up.
Yeah.
And then say what you want to say.
It's exactly that, but it's in
I think that's probably written by a married person.
But yeah, maybe. So he also did, and he goes on, and there's a Freakonomics book as well, which is.
I've seen that about,
Oh
Freakonomics.
my
Yeah.
God, I've got that, and then the subsequent one after that, and that is just crazy. Like, it just shows you how things aren't what they seem. Like, I think you probably remember, was it Mayor Rudy Giuliani or whatever it was?
Yeah.
He introduced a zero tolerance in
Zero
the
tolerance
80s.
in New York, yeah.
In the 80s, I think it was.
Yep.
Anyway, basically, and he said that reduced crime overnight, and it was literally brilliant. And it stopped and brought all the crime rate down. But when they looked into what actually happened was back in the late 60s, when the contraceptive pill was introduced, you ended up with less people in care, less people in circumstances they didn't want to be in, young men, for example, who just going out and making trouble. And it was actually the introduction of that had more to do with the reduction in the crime rate, because that, if you look at the time scale, by then they would all have been young men out making trouble.
Yeah.
They were no longer there. But it just happened to
Interesting.
coincide with the time that he was in office.
Yeah.
So it was, Freakonomics is a very interesting book, should I say, but it's very niche, I guess. Very, very niche.
We like a bit of niche here, don't we?
It's pretty good.
We do like a bit of niche.
Oh, we do, yeah.
Right. Before we do anything, let me just have a quick look at the because I've done a wee list. Let me have a look at to see if there's anything that's. Oh, hang on. Last one on my list anyway. Well, no, I've just finished listening to. It's called Friend for Life. It's written by Kate Humble. She's the TV host, presenter of One Man and His Dog and various other country file and all that.
Yeah.
And in it, she explores the relationship between dogs and people. Going right back to the days of when wolves were getting the idea that people were good to hang about because they threw food out, and that the first step in the relationship was that wolf pack that hung about the people because people were throwing food out would fight off other wolf packs that came by.
Right.
To protect the food source. And then people realised that if they had a wolf pack outside, that would keep the other wolves away.
Brilliant.
So going right back from the days then, and she talks to all sorts of people, anthropologists and archaeologists and other all sorts of ologies. And really, really interesting. And she tries her hand at training a sheepdog, a Welsh sheepdog. Apparently, Welsh sheepdogs are completely different to ordinary sheep, like what you would call a regular sheepdog, which is like a border collie.
Okay.
I need my shoes. He wants to go out.
All right, fun. Jane's putting her shoes on because Charlie's got to go out. Charlie needs a wee. You got to go, haven't you?
That's it.
Yeah. So brilliant book. Friend for Life by Kate Humble.
Brilliant. I like that.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
I think we're running out of time, but I just got my last book I want to tell you about.
Where are you getting for that? Let me just have a quick
go on.
Okay. Nothing in there of note that we can add.
All right.
They're all good, but nothing of note anyway.
I've probably got 5 or 6 more books, but this is my last one because we run out of time. But this is called Never Split the Difference by a guy called Chris Voss. Mm-hmm. And he's a was a FBI negotiator.
Right.
And it's how he got the job, what it entails, and how to negotiate like a FBI negotiator. To be honest, the story of his life is just worth the read anyway.
Yeah.
It's amazing. He was one of the top negotiators, if not the top, and then he retired and started his own company called Black Swan, and it's come in so handy. There's a book called Start With Yes. So when you're trying to get someone to agree to something, get them to say yes all the time. And apparently, and anyway, reading the book and then further on doing what he's got a YouTube channel as well. It turns out you want to do the opposite. Get people to say no, or give them the option to say no all the time. So if you're going to ask for something, it's always best to start with, feel free to say no, because that gives them the illusion that they've got the power to just drop out at any time. So they're in a superior position. So they think that. So if you want something, just always start with, just feel free to say no. And then most people after that will agree to whatever you want. It's simple things like that.
Yeah.
It's
Have
unbelievable.
you actually used any? So
Yes.
So there's a plethora of self-help books there. How much of, as a percentage, do you think you've actually used in your real life?
This is so well thumbed through. I mean, look, the back is probably, it's all coming apart because I read it all the time, and it works all the time. And it's some of the other ones. I've got millions more, but that book, for example, when I was back in England, we had to buy a horse trailer, and let's say the price that this person wanted was £2,000. I followed exactly what they said in the book, and it went along the lines of going and seeing it and just saying to the person, "It's brilliant. It's exactly the horse trailer we want. We're going to go for lunch. I'll give you a call, but it's perfect. It's exactly what we want. I can't see any problems with it. It's brilliant." Now, normally, when you go and look at a car or a horse trailer or whatever it is, you try and knock them down. You say, "This isn't working. That isn't working. That's not working." But he says, "No, just say it's perfect. Exactly what you want." So that's what we did. We went to a pub nearby, and then I rang the woman and said, "Look, it's perfect. Unfortunately, I can't afford it. All I can afford is 1,500, knowing that that's way too low." And I said, "Look, I don't want to even bother you with the offer." And then she said, exactly what he said you'd say. "Well, how much can you really afford?" And then you come up with a number, and then they go, "No, it's still too low." And you go, "Okay, I'll call you back." So you call them back, and then you give them a number, but it's not a specific number. So you wouldn't say like 1,700 or 1,800. You'd say, "Look, I've scraped around, spoke to people, the most I can do," and then you give them a random number. So it's like £1,653.27, something, just something like that. Looks like you've really considered it. So you've actually put in the work, done the numbers, and that's all you can really afford. And she went, "Yeah, okay, fine." And it was like 200 quid cheaper than what she wanted. But yeah, I mean, I've used it all the time.
It's a real manipulation, isn't it?
A manipulation?
Yeah, it's a real manipulation of people, isn't it?
So what I just did then was I repeat the last few words of your sentence, and it forces you to go on and explain exactly what you were just talking about. So that's what he teaches you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. So you just repeat the last 2 or 3 words of anyone's sentences to them, and then they will go on and explain further. So you can actually have a conversation with someone in which you don't give any information away, but they give you all the information back just by repeating the last sentence that they say. So, like, I went to the beach today, and you just go, "Oh, the beach," and then they'll tell you where the beach was, who they went with.
Yeah.
Like that. It's well worth watching.
Of course you can, yeah. Yeah, of course you can. Charlie's coming in. Hang on.
Well, we're going in a minute anyway.
Yeah, Charlie.
Let's have a look. See how big he is, because I bet he's massive.
Yeah, Charlie. Come here.
Can you lift him? I bet he's probably that heavy. Oh my God, he's a giant.
He is a giant. Look.
His head's as big as your head.
Oh, look. Look, who's this? Look. It's a lovely boy.
Wow.
Yes, he's a lovely boy. Yeah. That's a good boy.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is Charlie. Oh, hang on. Oh, fucking hell.
Whoa, he's huge. Look how long his legs are.
Oh no, look at the size of his feet.
They're like tennis rackets. Oh, look at that. Right, I guess that's probably, unless you got any more.
Right. Sorry, I'm here.
Be about it. We're 1 hour 10, I think.
Yep, brilliant.
Something like that.
So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it, actually. I went right through every list. It's been brilliant. And I've got a list of books to have a look for as well.
Yeah,
so,
I'm definitely going to check out. I'm going to read some more Bill Bryson ones for sure, because you reminded me they're really, really good.
Yeah.
So,
you need to look for Emma Kennedy. Brilliant.
never heard of it.
One of the funniest books I've ever read. The Tent, the Bucket and Me.
Right. Definitely going to get.
Yeah, definitely. So, as I say, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and maybe think about sharing it on your socials, on your social media, and press the notification bell so that you know when there's new content. And maybe think about subscribing if you're not subscribed already. And all that leaves to say is this goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him.
Goodbye.